On March 14, 2015, my entire perspective on the world changed. While most people were enjoying their spring break, relaxing on the sunny beaches of Florida or Mexico, or even just spending time with their families at home, I was building outdoor classrooms, cleaning up cities, and planting fresh produce. Why would I want to spend my spring break doing manual labor? Because I was able to spend this time in my favorite place in the world, Israel. Two of my best friends, Ellie and Julia, had told me about an amazing community service trip in Israel, and I knew I had to go. All I had to do was raise $1,500 for the Jewish National Fund, and everything else would be taken care of. This money went directly to fund my service projects, and after lots of phone calls and emails, I was able to raise the funds. I went into the trip with no expectations, just pure excitement, since I had not been to Israel since I was in the 10th grade, over 4 years ago. I hopped on the plane at the Newark airport with 42 strangers, and 12 hours later, I arrived in the Ben Gurion airport. Little did I know that these 42 strangers would soon become my family. We spent our first day at an urban farm called Earth's Promise, located in Beersheba. Earth's Promise provides an opportunity for citizens of all backgrounds to experience healthy and sustainable living. My group worked to weed gardens, compost, build mud huts, and fix up some buildings that had been deteriorating. We also had a chance to help out some of the local families. I specifically worked with an elderly woman whose yard was full of trash and weeds. Her dream was to have an area for her grandchildren to play outside, and my small group was able to make that dream a reality. Being able to see how our actions made a direct impact on someone else is a feeling unlike anything else. Later that day, we stopped at Hagar, which is one of a few bilingual elementary schools in Israel. This school, located in Beersheba, is unique because Arab and Jewish students learn side by side, where both views are respected and voices are heard. This was a true example of coexistence, which is something we don't always see in the media. It was on this day that we were informed that a camera crew would be following us around the entire trip, recording everything that we did for a promotional video. On our second day, we met an inspiring man named Yossi. Years ago, he had a dream of building a farm in the Negev, which is a desert. He receives no government funding and runs this farm all on his own. A task as large as this is something no one can do alone. So he told us that at night it gets really dark, and cars can often veer off of the road. Our group built a path so that this no longer happened. We also worked together to make a hut where local volunteers can stay while they help out on his farm. Afterwards, some of us prepared lunch for the group, while others got to play around with the animals. On day 3, our group headed to a city called Yerucham. We had a chance to meet some of the locals, and they told us that since the city is so old, no one really makes an effort to clean it up. The playgrounds were graffitied, weeds were everywhere, and paint was rusting off of the gates, buildings, and railings of the city. Our group worked to repaint the city, as well as get rid of all the weeds and graffiti. This was one of the longest days, but the gratitude we received from the locals was worth all of it. On our 4th day, we visited the city of Halutza. This is a city sponsored by the Jewish National Fund, so it was a very special day and honestly one of my favorites. We visited an all-boys school called a yeshiva, and were told that we were going to be building an outdoor classroom. We rolled out turf, built bamboo walls, and painted picnic tables. This was by far one of my favorite projects because we were able to fully complete it in one day and see how awesome the end result was. However, a few of us were asked to do a special task: paint a mural on the inside of the new music classroom. This was right up my alley since I'm very passionate about art. Only 6 of us were asked to do this, so I was honored. One of the worst yet memorable parts of the trip was when I was painting and I stood on top of a paint bucket. The lid came off and I literally fell in a bucket of paint and ruined my pants, socks, and shoes. On day 5, we visited Sderot. This city is known for the frequent rockets that are sent into the city. Because of this, the children are unable to safely play outside and parents are always worried. A few years ago, the Jewish National Fund built an indoor playground in a bomb shelter so that children and their families could play safely and still get to be active. We toured the facility and got to meet some of the local families. On the 6th day, we volunteered in an outdoor reserve called Bustan Hamayan. This day was spent picking tomatoes and other fresh produce, weeding areas, and creating paths so people could walk and enjoy the beautiful outdoors. On our 7th day, we explored the Holy Land of Jerusalem. During the day, we visited the shuk, or the marketplace. We tasted the foods, bought items from local vendors, and basically looked like absolute tourists. The Jewish people believe that during the seventh day of creation, God rested on the seventh day, which is what we call Shabbat. We spent Shabbat at the most holy place of all, the Western Wall. We watched as the Israeli soldiers danced and sang, celebrating another week of being alive, while others shared an emotional moment praying at the wall. The feeling I had was indescribable and much more emotional than when I had visited several years ago. We arrived back at the hotel and had a delicious Shabbat dinner as a cohesive community. As each day went on, I found myself getting to know the people on my trip more and more. We spent each night either hanging out in our hostel or exploring the city nightlife. I have never been surrounded by a group of people who were as passionate about the same thing as I was. This trip opened my eyes to all of the amazing opportunities and things that Israel does as a country, and how many wonderful people are still here in this world. It made me appreciate how lucky I am to live where I do and have all of the resources available to me that I do. This trip runs every winter and spring break and is open to all Jewish college students. I went with one other girl from Charleston who I had not known prior to the trip, and now she's one of my best friends. I'm currently applying to be a JNF campus representative for next year, and will hopefully return to do another alternative spring break trip, or even go over winter break. Israel will always have a piece of my heart, and I cannot wait to go back.